The underscore C00N1985 said, motorcycle game.
Coon, how you doing? Give me a second, be right with you, sir. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we have volume. What is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the Ageless, one of the man, Lincoln Clay, and we are back for a live stream of World Superbike in VR. This is Vrider SBK. This is the official VR sim of the FIM, which is, I believe, stands for Federation International Motorcycle. With Formula One, that is governed by the FIA, which I think stands for Federation International Automobile. So this game is available on PC, Quest, and PSVR 2. I'm playing this game from the PC. I bought this game on the Quest a while ago. So yes, this game has been out on the Quest for quite a while, but I never streamed it from the Quest because it is just such a headache. You got to jump through so many hoops to stream something from the Quest. And then if there's something wrong, you kind of don't have any way of detecting it. So in any case, the game is now available on PC and on PSVR 2. And I bought the PC version, and there's definitely some upgrades from the Quest version. So I've taken a look at 3 versions of the game. I've checked it out on PC, on this headset as a PC. I've checked it out on the Quest 3, and I've checked it out on this headset as a standalone headset. And starting from the top, PC definitely looks best. Least amount of aliasing. There's, a little bit of shimmering going on. Like, let me see if I can point it out with my controller. Well, I'll just put the headset on and just talk as I go. So on the PC version of this game has the least amount of shimmering, and like right there on the handlebar where I got my pointer at, right around that knuckle, that's probably where you see a little bit of aliasing, but it's minimal. On the Quest standalone version of this game, yes, there is a noticeable amount of aliasing, on this Quest Pro. Now the Quest 3 actually looks almost as good as PC. PC has a little bit less aliasing, but in terms of sharpness, the Quest 3 is almost as sharp as PC. The big difference is they've added some assets to the PC and the PSVR 2 version. So one of the things that I can show you real quick, because we're going to get into the tutorial here in a second, but one of the things I can show you where the extra horsepower of the PC gave the developers a little bit more leeway is you go into a quick race. So I've got this guy, Tom Sykes, picked. And right here, where you go to select opponents, I can select up to 22 AI opponents, whereas on the Quest version, you can only select 9. So that's got me a little bit curious how that works, because it has been confirmed that the PC and the Quest version of this game is crossplay, but there was no confirmation on whether the PSVR 2 version is crossplay or not. I did reach out to the developers on Twitter and asked them. They haven't responded yet, so I don't know about that. So let's see here. So I think I'm going to do a quick tutorial and show you guys how this works, because it'd be easier for me to talk about it as I'm going through the tutorial. AI level, wait a minute. Oh, no, I want a tutorial. Here we go. Okay, so find the ideal posture. So we'll talk about that when we jump into it. There was something else that I was going to say, but a little bit of backstory with me. In my teens and in my mid-20s, I was a hardcore motorcycle fan. When I was in my teens, Honda dominated motorcycle racing, and two of the biggest names was Freddie Spencer and Mike Baldwin. And when I came back to motorcycle racing in my mid-20s, by then I was already riding motorcycles. So the three organizations that I watched was the AMA, which is the American Motorcycle Association, the FIM, which is what this game is based on, and then MotoGP, which is basically the Formula One of motorcycle racing. When you made it to MotoGP, you've made it to the top. And I preferred to watch the AMA and the FIM because they use production bikes in those races. So this bike here in particular, this is the Kawasaki Ninja ZX10, which is a 1000cc bike. You can walk into a Kawasaki dealer and buy this exact bike. You would have to make some modifications to put it on the racetrack, but this is the bike that they would be racing on. And that's why I used to watch those organizations, because I felt a closeness to it, because they were riding bikes, they were racing bikes that you can walk right into a dealership and buy. During my mid-20s, when I was watching a lot of AMA and FIM, Suzuki was the dominant manufacturer then. I think Suzuki was dominating across the AMA and the FIM. I think with MotoGP, I think it might have been a fight between Honda and Yamaha. And so speaking of manufacturers in this game, you've got 5 manufacturers to choose from. You've got Honda, Yamaha, Ducati, BMW, and Kawasaki. And what's noticeably missing from here is Suzuki. So I don't know. I haven't watched motorcycle racing in so long. I don't know if Suzuki pulled out of road racing or not. So that's something I would have to investigate, because I used to have I owned 2 crotch rockets in my past. Both of them were Suzukis. The first one was a starter bike called the Katana, and then my second bike was a real bike. That was the Suzuki GSXR 750. And when I first bought that bike, I didn't like it, but I didn't like the way it looked, but I definitely liked the way it rolled, the way it handled, the acceleration. I mean, I had a 750 that was beating 1000s because the guy that I bought the bike from, he made some modifications to the bike. So I think we can go ahead and get into the tutorial, and I can talk about this game as I go along. Here, let me change my position. All right, so you know what that I forgot? Let me back out of this, because I want to show you the settings. You have a choice. You have to hold your hands like this to steer the bike, but in the settings, you have a choice. Your throttle input. In my case, I use the trigger. I squeeze the trigger to ride the bike. But you
_C00 and 1985 said, Suzuki has pulled out of the racing world as far as factory Suzuki.
Okay, which I don't know what happened, because when I used to watch it in my mid-20s, Suzuki was dominating the AMA and the FIM. But we talking like 30 years ago though. So the throttle inputs, you have a choice up here at the top. You can either go trigger, which is easier for me, or if you want to be really immersive, you can twist. And when you hold your hand like this, you twist your right hand as if you're twisting the throttle. And because you're holding your hands in an imaginary position, it was kind of tough for me to try to steer the bike and twist the throttle at the same time. And I also set the gears for automatic. because I think if you want to go manual, you have to use the buttons to gear up and gear down. That's just like too much stuff for me to be worried about for a game that I'm a novice at. I mean, when I rode crotch rockets in real life, this was all second nature. Traction control is low. Steering sensitivity, I've got it set to low because, again, you hold your hand out.
RL9010 said, I tried this earlier.
How'd you like it, RL? How'd you like this?
JLOad said, can you assign access to any device? RL9010 said, yeah, I went auto too.
Oh, okay. Can you assign access to any device? I'm not. I guess if that's your way of asking if you can map it out any way the controls any way you want.
RL9010 said, it's cool.
Oh.
RL9010 said, still needs some work.
Yeah, like I'm okay with it. I'm definitely okay with it. I mean, I like it. I have to get used to the steering though. The biggest problem I had with the steering is like you'll go to gradually lean into a corner to all of a sudden it just like the bike wants to slide out from underneath you. To come back to answering that question about the access, if that's your way of asking if you can map the controls out any way you want, I really don't know because I've never dove into it because I set the controls up to make things as easy as possible for me to try to ride this because this is definitely a learning curve with this. But I think once you get the hang of it, I think it's very rewarding and it's definitely immersive. I do think the devs may possibly end up seeing
RL9010 said, keeping my hands close seemed to help.
In my case, I keep my hands about here, and it seems like the best way to steer is swinging your hands in a half, like in a pendulum type movement, and it definitely takes some getting used to because with motorcycle racing, you almost have to start making your turn before you get to the corner, and you almost have to start straightening the bike out before you get out of the corner. So, all right, we've got it set. Let's go ahead and do this. So, we recommend playing while seated and making sure you have at least 1 meter of unobstructed space around you. Understand that. If the camera is not centered, press the menu button on the right controller. Follow instructions to reset view. Understand that. How to hold the controllers. Position yourself like the woman in the picture and keep the controllers level for 6 seconds. Hold each controller as if they were attached to the ends of a real bike handlebar. Then elevate. Oh! I was doing like this. It sounds like they're telling you to turn like this. Like, rather than doing this, what I was doing. Turn this a little bit because it's because I'm starting to hit it. Okay, so right there, the game has two input method options. One allows you to accelerate by pressing the right trigger, which is what I have chosen. The other one is more realistic, and it allows you to accelerate by twisting your wrist just like on a real bike. And I'm going to choose the trigger because it's just easier. Especially once you try to get the hang of this game and get into these races, these online races. Let me see here. Press the trigger button on the right controller, accelerate and fully release 3 times. Press the trigger button on the left to slow down. That's your brakes. You can adjust the brakes intensity by pressing the trigger, the brake triggers. 3. Your helmet visor can get dirty. Press the grip button on the left controller to clean it. No, I totally forgot about that. Oh, you got a ghost hand that's wiping across your shield to wipe the dirt off. Face straight past the finish line at least 280 kilometers an hour. Do not go off the track, fall off the bike, or go in the opposite direction. All right. Let's start. All right. So I might not need to go through this entire tutorial. I mean, you guys will end up getting the gist of it here. Now, this right here, for racing, this is very important because this also applies in real life. Windshield ducking. Lean forward behind the windshield to have less wind resistance and reach higher speeds. Before using this feature, remove any obstacles or hazards in your vicinity. Make sure you are firmly seated and be aware of your surrounding at all times. Now, I can tell you another thing that coming back to the difference between the PC version and the Quest version. The PC version, they must have like really spruced it up because they recommend an RTX 4060 for optimal experience. And one of the things I can tell you right now is looking at those trees are 3D, whereas they are flat on the Quest version, and then the stands here on the Quest version, the stands are empty. Alright, let's go. So I got to get behind the windscreen in order to gain more speed. So I'm sitting up right here. Now I'm gonna duck. And then you hear the wind resistance go down. All right. Modulate the throttle and maintain speed between 120 and 180 for at least 5 seconds before reaching the finish line. And that's pretty explanatory. The further you squeeze the trigger in, the more throttle you will give the bike. So I kind of don't really feel like I need to go through that tutorial. Modulate the throttle and maintain speeds between for at least 5 seconds before reaching the finish line. All right, we'll do it. Well, we'll move on. All right, I think we can get ready to monkey around with a race. So yeah, the PC version is definitely a sharper, more assets, less aliasing, and there is another motorcycle game out there on PC called GP Bikes, and I think the graphics are probably give or take about the same as this game here, but the big difference is this is the official VR Superbike sim of the FIM, whereas the other game is generic. So we'll do a quick single player race, and let me see here. And these are real life riders. Alex Lowe's, he's 32 years old. He's a veteran. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go with that. Circuit Barcelona, 3 laps. This will be a 3-lap race. And as you can see again, I can choose a max of 22 AI. Now, when it comes to the multiplayer, I think it's either 6 or 8 person multiplayer, and with the multiplayer, if you play it casual, everybody you're racing against is a ghost, so that there's no collisions. But if you choose, I guess, the competitive rank races, then yes, nobody's a ghost and collisions are enabled. I said it before that the PC version and the Quest version are crossplay, but I don't know whether or not the PSVR 2 version is crossplay. Also with the PS2 version, the PSVR 2 version, there is no dynamic foveated rendering, so I don't know what that's going to look like inside the headset, and there is reprojection that doesn't seem to be an option for 90 hertz mode, but I really can't say anything about that, because even with this PC version, you cannot choose your frame rate. You can choose your graphical settings, which I have it set on ultra, but you can't set the frame rate. So I'm guessing that maybe everybody's running on the same frame rate. So yeah, looking up there's a nice razor sharp picture. They got all the endorsements. Let's go. Boy, that leaning over, ducking behind the windshield. Whew. Just like it brings back some old memories of when I used to ride crotch rockets in real life. My wrist used to hurt because you're leaning over on top of the handlebars, whereas on a cruiser you sit in a relaxed position. And I do remember my back aching a little bit, and I do remember a little bit of aching at the back of the neck. Let's see here. Let's see what we can find as far as quick join. See what we can find. I got it set for any session. Remember, the casuals, everybody's a ghost, and on the looks like we might have found a session. Oh, it's just me and that guy there. I had to take a break there for a second. My shoulders and neck is starting to burn. Whew. This game, because of the hunched over position that you're in, and you got to get behind that windscreen in order to pick up extra speed. I don't know if I could do much more than 3 laps with this game, unless I find a different way to sit and be more comfortable. So I might have to adjust the like recalibrate the VR so the handlebars are like almost right up under my chin, so I can just do it like this without having to bend over. I think we'll try one more track. Misano, we know that race. We just got off Donington. Imola's weird, because some of these tracks have a different variation for motorcycle races. Let's see here. Algarve is one of the tracks on Le Mans Ultimate. Jerez, I'm definitely familiar with this track from seeing it on MotoGP back in the days. Don't remember this track or this one. Phillip Island. Now, back when I used to watch these races in my mid-20s, Phillip Island was my favorite track because coming out of like section 3 right here, once you get around that corner and you can hit it straight, they can open those bikes up, and those bikes would hit over 200 miles an hour before they got to this corner. And even when they got to this corner, they could still carry a lot of speed through that corner, but then they'd have to slow it down. They could still carry a lot of speed through this corner right here, but they did have to slow it down. They could pick it back up until they got right here. Then they had to like pretty much hit the brakes pretty damn hard. But yeah, Phillip Island was definitely one of my favorite tracks back then. We just came off of Barcelona and Donington and Imola. Yeah, why not? Why not take a look at Algarve? Trophies on this track. So this looks like bronze, silver, gold. And I don't know whether to call that platinum or not. So the fastest lap up here is 129.6. If I learned this game, I could beat it. Whew. Probably hear my alarm screaming in the background. It'll shut up any minute now. So 135 was that my best lap? Best lap was 155. Hell no, I didn't come close. I think I'm going to leave it there. The old shoulders are starting to burn, and I got to head on out to pick up my son. And I would like to apologize for not streaming this yesterday. My plans were to stream this game and then leave and go watch the F1 movie, but all those plans got scrapped when I volunteered to work this morning. So I came straight home from work and jumped into the stream. So this game sells for $30 on PC, and I'd imagine PSVR 2. I'd imagine it's probably still $30 on Quest as well. They got to pay for these licenses. So visually, definitely the PC looks the best. In my opinion, has the sharpest picture. And you know, I'm going out on a limb to say that it probably does look better than the PSVR 2, especially when you can choose your graphical settings within the game and choose your resolution outside of the game through the headset app itself. So yeah, I think I'd imagine that the PC version definitely looks best because of the reprojection. A case could be made for some people that they might think that the PSVR 2 version might run best, but from what I'm understanding, because of the reprojection, it is definitely ghosting there. So PC is the way to go. But if you do buy the Quest 3 version of this game, you're still getting a really good version. The resolution, you know, in terms of clarity, you're still getting a picture that's very close to PC. The big difference is you know, you're not getting the 3D trees, you're not getting the crowd, you know, you're not getting the fans up in the stands and that kind of stuff, but it's still a pretty good version. So I definitely like this game. It's still a learning curve, but when I did go around those corners correctly and straightened out right into the straights, it did feel very rewarding. And it did feel very immersive, so I definitely like this game. So if this is a game you're interested in, no matter what platform you're on, you can get it, because again, it's available on Quest standalone, it's available on PSVR 2 and PC. So I would say if you're into motorcycle racing, definitely check this out. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and boogie on out of here. We'll see how the rest of this day plays out. With that being said, we'll catch you on the next one. Until the next time, you all know the line. Wakanda forever, long live the king, and deuces. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you soon.